Good afternoon. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. It is Thursday ahead of the big game in Las Vegas. Thanks for tuning into the show. I'm Craig Mish. We got a great show in store for you coming up. We get to the very latest from the big game from Las Vegas. Danan Hughes is going to join us, former football player, former baseball player. So certainly he and I are going to chop it up about his baseball days as well. Matt Lutovsky from Sporting News talks a little NBA. Today is the trade deadline. We've seen several trades in the NBA, including Buddy Hield headed to the Philadelphia 76ers, but I'll have the full rundown on that. Also, Sam McQuillan is our guest contributor of Legal Sports Report. Also going to play a couple of interviews from our great coverage out at Radio Row. For those of you who have been watching 24/7, the guys and girls doing a phenomenal job out there at Mandalay Bay and MGM. So make sure you stay tuned to that. 3 o'clock Eastern, Scott Farrell back on the air live from Las Vegas. Let's get to the latest from Vegas and the Super Bowl. Sky Moore, he's a go. It looks like he is 100% headed into the game, was placed on injured reserve, but going to play for the Chiefs coming up in the Super Bowl. Naturally, Moore has not been a big contributor, but it's always good to have an extra player, and that indeed will be the case with Moore. The NFLPA says 92% of the players in the league want grass over turf fields, and I'm sure that this is surrounding MetLife and the fact that they're going to be hosting the World Cup in 2026, more grass, less turf. I think that is the deal. The Packers have announced a search for a new CEO. Who's going to succeed Mark Murphy? He's been there a long time. He's going to retire in July. He turned 70 years old, and so they're certainly going to look for somebody there to carry the torch. Ron Wolf there previously as well. They've always had really good leadership in Green Bay. And also, is Rex Ryan headed back to the NFL? Could this be possible? He hasn't coached in the NFL since 2016. The Cowboys are interviewing Rex Ryan. How about that for their defensive coordinator position? A story I did not think we would be doing here on this show. All right, now let's get to the latest back from Las Vegas. For those of you who are unfamiliar with all of our coverage at Radio Row, all of the best celebrities and all of the great former and current NFL players do the rounds. They speak to all the media. Great player in the NFL at a very high level for the Seattle Seahawks for a long period of time, and also probably carried you to a fantasy football championship once upon a time. His name is Shaun Alexander. Remember him? Great running back. He caught up with our Joe Lisi and talked about the running backs in the Super Bowl.
You played at Seattle,
yeah,
right? You won an NFL MVP, star season that year, right? You played on a Super Bowl team as well.
Yep.
We brought this up on our show as it relates in regards to the running back position.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a running back to win the Super Bowl MVP in the last 20 years. It's been 13 quarterbacks, 5 wide receivers, 2 defensive players.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? And can these both of these running backs, Isaiah Pacheco or Christian McCaffrey, take home the hardware Sunday?
Well, I think the game itself, running backs, only way that you really get the MVP is if you dominate the game. And the way coaches call plays, it's not built for the running back to dominate. So that kind of makes sense. I played on the team that they would give me the ball 20-some times, but we lost Super Bowl and I only had 20 carries. So I think, if you need more carries, you
feed the beast, right?
I think that's how it works. So most teams, they don't do it that way. It is possible because I know at least the 49ers, they have multiple ways to get Christian McCaffrey the ball. And so he's got a chance.
Prediction for the game. You're picking the Chiefs or San Francisco?
Man, I know I've gotten some great relationships with many other guys at the 49ers, but I usually do vote with my heart. But I feel like it's going to be so hard to beat that Kansas City defense. Their defense is really playing at a level that's unmatched. You got to go over to those great Bears, the Ravens. They're in those top 4 or 5 playoff teams ever.
Right.
And so if the Kansas City Chiefs are playing like that, they got Patrick Mahomes. They're going to find ways to score some points. And so I feel like Kansas City will win.
Seattle Seahawks great, Shaun Alexander.
All right, Shaun Alexander, once upon a time, was it 5 touchdowns in an NFL game? Michael and Frank, check that out. I think Shaun Alexander on a Sunday Night Football may have scored 5 times in an NFL game. It's crazy. All right, let's get to the latest in college football. Nick Saban joins ESPN. He's back in college football, going to be on TV this season. College Game Day was actually pretty good, I thought, in his debut. Unranked Michigan defeats number 11 Wisconsin in Ann Arbor, 72-68. College basketball upside down. I say it every day here on the show. You're bored of me saying it. Colorado and Deion Sanders, they expect to hire Rob Livingston as their defensive coordinator. Primetime is 0 issues on offense with the Buffaloes and a lot of issues on defense this past season. Maybe that'll get fixed. And Ohio State's head coach Ryan Day confirms he's not going to call the plays on offense next season. Although his status of his handpicked successor, Bill O'Brien, will be determined in the coming days. All right, now, NBA trade deadline, it is 12 o'clock Eastern. Generally speaking, we do not see this kind of activity this early. Usually it comes in a flurry late, but we've already gotten the flurry. So I wonder if this is the beginning or if this is the end. I really don't know. Trade deadlines are up in the air. Here are the ones we know about. The 76ers are acquiring Buddy Hield from the Indiana Pacers, Marcus Morris, another player involved, also 3 second-round picks. So right now, Hield's going to help the 76ers with their offense because Embiid is out. The Knicks are acquiring Alec Burks from the Detroit Pistons. The Knicks also get Bojan Bogdanovic in the deal. Quentin Grimes, Evan Fournier, Malachi Flynn, 2 second-round picks go to Detroit. They're playing for the future next year and beyond. Oklahoma City acquires Gordon Hayward from the Charlotte Hornets. Trey Mann and Davis Bertans go to Charlotte in exchange there. Sorry, I'm reading. I got to do it. There's a lot of trades. The Toronto Raptors acquire Kelly Olynyk from the Utah Jazz, and the Wizards are sending Daniel Gafford to the Mavericks for Rashawn Holmes. Those are all the trades at the moment. Great news in golf. Tiger Woods is back. He's going to make his 2024 debut at the Genesis Invitational coming up next week. Netflix is back in the baseball game, creating a docuseries on the Boston Red Sox. They're going to follow him this season, and it's going to air next year. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. won his arbitration case against the Toronto Blue Jays. It's a $19.9 million win. So congratulations to Guerrero, who the Blue Jays were trying to pay $18.05. This is what happens in arbitration. They go back and forth. They don't agree, and an arbitrator ends up deciding. And really cool story in baseball as well. Cannon Smith in Jigba, and minor league outfielder, has been claimed by the Seattle Mariners. If his name sounds familiar, at least his last name, Jackson Smith in Jigba, of course, is a wide receiver on the Seattle Seahawks. So they're both going to be potentially playing in the same city, although Cannon Smith in Jigba, as a minor league baseball player, clearly would have to get called up to the big leagues in order to, really solidify that and make that happen. All right, so that's what we got here for our top stories in the headlines. But coming up next, we got a great guest from Las Vegas. Danan Hughes is going to join us in the house. Played in the NFL, covers the Chiefs. He does, the broadcasting for the Chiefs pre and post game. Color analyst as well for the Chiefs on TV and radio, also on the Big Ten Network and ESPN, and also dipped his toe in Major League Baseball. So he's a great two-sport athlete like Bo Jackson, like Brian Jordan, like Deion Sanders. I got to ask about that because, as you know, baseball is my thing here on SportsGrid. So we're off and running here on this Thursday Super Bowl edition of NewsWire, and I hope you stick with us. We got a great show planned for you, and we'll be back right after these messages. Don't go away.
Think about last year's game. It ends on a failed Hail Mary, and both teams run out onto the field. That's what you're looking for, is a game.
A chaotic end of the game.
You can't get the game.
Oh, great point. Yeah.
2-point spread in the game. Think it could come down to the wire. Everyone says script, Taylor Swift, all this stuff. So I like 1,600, no Gatorade point.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
They have played terrible football, and yet they always win. Have you noticed? Everyone keeps talking about how bad the Niners suck as they win every week. They win every game, even games they should have. They're down 24-7, and they still won.
Now we have the first excuse when the Niners lose on Sunday night. They practiced on a bad field at UNLV. They didn't get the proper conditions.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
I'm digging deep, fellas. I'm digging deep.
Christian McCaffrey minus 220. Donnie, how could you do that? The price point is way out of control in this. Keep it simple. The goal is to win money, not to outsmart everybody. Mahomes is minus 140 to throw 2 touchdown passes. And if he's going to, every single thing suggests a wide receiver will haul in at least one, if not both.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
I saw a study that said 24% of Taylor Swift fans actually do follow the Chiefs now.
Sure.
And when you consider how many fans she has, it's quite a lot, 24%.
Oh, yeah. You seen Travis Kelce's Instagram, his social media?
Yeah.
Everything.
Right.
It's huge.
Oh, no, listen. He's, like his agent said, he's going to be the next Rock. Like, they're setting him up to be, the next superstar.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, time to get the latest on the Super Bowl. Let's go to Las Vegas. Danan Hughes is out there and doing a bunch of interviews and talking Kansas City Chiefs. You see him on TV and radio and doing a great job broadcasting, and he's been at this a long time. And pleasure to have you on the show, Danan. Nice to meet you, and thanks for coming on the program.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me, man. This is an exciting week here in Las Vegas. We call this Arrowhead West because we've had so much dominance over the Raiders. So we're actually playing. It feels like a home with us playing at Allegiant Stadium.
Yeah, definitely the case. A little different when the team was in Oakland and maybe LA, but no, it's been the Chiefs have just had the number once the Vegas move was made. So, it's interesting, Dana, that and I know it's a little different for you because broadcasting for the team, sports betting and team coverage are a no. They're not aligned here. But I could just tell you from my perspective what is interesting, and then if you want to comment on it, great, and if not, we can move on to something else. But it feels like everyone is taking the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, Danan, but yet the line has been pretty stable for the majority of the week over on FanDuel. The 49ers are 2.5-point favorites. And I find that interesting because if everyone is taking the Chiefs, usually you see the line move. Maybe Kansas City would not even be an underdog anymore. Maybe they would be pick'em or just a 1-point dog, but that hasn't been the case. So, I guess I'll put it to you like this. Long story short, I just wasted a minute of your time. Should the Chiefs be favored in this game? Should they be favored? Should the line be 49ers minus 2.5?
The Chiefs should be favored, and that's a credit to the 49ers, the season that they had, the dominance that they presented in the NFC. They had some ups and gave up some points. They were obviously down really quick and early to the Detroit Lions, but back. The fact that they have opportunity for retribution here, the fact that several of the guys on this roster still were guys that were on the Super Bowl 54 team that lost to the Chiefs. I just feel like, it's a credit to them and their entire season. Now, in regards to our playoff run and how we've been able to correct things, the record number of drops by receivers and tight ends during the regular season, and then be able to clean that up as we move toward the postseason, and then winning on the road at the Bills of all places, who you talk about another team that had a true opportunity, first time playing on their home field for the AFC Championship against the Chiefs, my rookie year in 1993, and they couldn't get it going to Baltimore, which was the dominant team, the Niners of the AFC, and be able to beat them to get to this point. I think it's cool teams that the line is so close, but I don't have a problem with the Niners being the favorites. I don't think the Chiefs players have any problem with it. It actually allows us to have a little bit of an extra chip on our shoulder.
Yeah, no, that's usually what you hear is, they still think we're an underdog. Of course, happened in the AFC Championship. Here we go again. All right, so look, Patrick Mahomes, I don't know what there's really left to say. Like we're headed toward boring Brady years, Dana, what I mean? It's like every story's been told, everything has been said. And I do these shows and I see, oh, you're going to ask Danan about Patrick Mahomes. And it's like, I have to think, like, what have I not asked about this guy that shouldn't get asked? So Danan, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw it back to you. And I'm going to have you, who's a lot more educated on the Chiefs and you played in the NFL, tell me, what do I not know about this guy? What should I be saying? What should I have asked you that I didn't know about Patrick Mahomes leading up to the Super Bowl? How about that?
Well, I'd say first, this window of time with Patrick Mahomes at the helm, we are this. We're not taking it for granted. You talk about the boring talk about Patrick Mahomes, like the Chiefs. We didn't win a playoff game from 1993 until Andy Reid came. Like we're in the midst of 6 straight AFC championships and now 4 Super Bowls in 5 years. Like we're gonna savor these moments right now. It's not ever gonna get boring to us. But when you talk about Patrick Mahomes, the thing that jumps out to me is how he's elevated his total persona, not just his game on the field, but his persona, his leadership. This year, probably the most frustrating year for him overall, not because of his play, but maybe because of the lack of support that he had from his receivers during the season. You can make an argument that we had 6 losses during the season. You can make an argument that we're 4 catches individually away from just losing 2 games, maybe even just losing 1. If you look at the drops and how they happened, if the receivers would have just caught the ball and fell down, would have went into the playoffs at a 15-2 record. So, but Patrick never got down on his guys. So to answer your question, things that you may not know about him, latter part of the season, he was interviewed when all the drops were happening with the receivers. And he said something that I thought elevated him in my eyes to a leadership position, not so much just the playmaking and magical play that we see on the field. He said, you guys see what my guys do on Sunday, and you justifiably can criticize, the drops are there and so on, but I trust them because I see what they do Monday through Saturday. I see the work that they put in, and that's why they're always going to get shots and opportunities from me, and I'm not going to get down on them. I thought that was very telling of him as a leader for this team. And then lo and behold, how do we secure the win almost 2 weeks ago against Baltimore? With a deep pass to Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who's probably been one of the bigger culprits of drops this season. So his elevation in leadership, story that's not necessarily shared as much as it should be.
Yeah, understood. Well said. So, the key offensive players for the Chiefs going into this game, Travis Kelce, again, a player not boring, by the way, that everybody's been talking about for the last few months for a lot of different reasons. Isaiah Pacheco, who's come on very strong. And coming on strong would be a great way to describe the second half of the season for Rashee Rice. I would ask you, Danan, who do you think comes up the biggest of the 3 in the big game Sunday?
So I wouldn't be surprised if Kelce came up big coming off the AFC Championship in the game he had with double-digit catches. I feel like stars shine the brightest in this type of game. But then Isaiah Pacheco could be that guy based on the Niners' run defense. They're not very good against the run. We've seen him elevate in regards to being depended on a little bit more in the run game, first against the Bills, and then obviously last week against the Baltimore Ravens. So I would say those jump out to me. Rashee Rice has just been an amazing story for a rookie to elevate himself to the number 1 receiving target and to make the plays that he's made this season, especially since the bye week. He's a special talent, but I'm going to go in there. And I will say this, Travis Kelce, probably going to be the star of this offense in game, but I met my first Swiftie who said that the only reason she's here and the only reason she's watching football is because of Taylor Swift. I thought that was kind of like fabricated stories that people were out there actually doing. Somebody that actually was here carrying a sign saying, I love Travis Kelce because of Taylor, not because of football.
Funny. Funny. Danan, you had a baseball career also with the Milwaukee Brewers, and I don't want to stop short before I kind of get to that. The difficulty of playing baseball versus football. You had a chance to experience that. I wanted to ask you about that with a minute to go.
Yeah, baseball is my first love. It's always been my first love. I still get an opportunity to broadcast for ESPN and the Big Ten Network, college baseball. But you mentioned Brian Jordan, Deion Sanders. I got a chance to meet Bo Jackson when I was in college playing baseball for the University of Iowa. It was kind of a Mean Joe Green a moment where we were walking up and down the tunnel, and I passed him. That was a great experience. But baseball's been awesome. I love the game of baseball, and I was glad that a school like the University of Iowa and a team like the Milwaukee Brewers allowed me to extend my career.
Well, it was nice to meet you. Thanks again for coming on NewsWire. Have a great time in Las Vegas. Not too much fun, just a great time.
Yeah, not too much fun. We got to get a win, so go Chiefs.
All right, we'll be right back with Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report.
Introducing Sports Injury Central's new feature, The Injury Edge, your NFL matchup cheat sheet. See all the significant injury mismatches broken down by offense and defense to highlight where the advantages lie. All for only $2.99 a week. How can you even consider making a bet or setting your fantasy lineup without knowing the injury mismatches? Go to sixscore.com today and get this week's Injury Edge.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Super Bowl is set in Vegas. We get a rematch from just a few years ago.
The only consistency in the playoffs has been Travis Kelce.
Brock Purdy, back-to-back weeks throwing one touchdown pass, right? You can't win MVP with one touchdown pass. I hate the Chiefs, but I bet on them. This is going to be a game that is played inside a field goal now from a spread perspective.
All that matters is there's one game left, the big game.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
If you were going to say, yes, of course, the playoffs started and now the Chiefs are the best team in the league, fine. I think that's wrong. And I think it is going to be close to impossible for the Chiefs to now play for the third week in a row, their best game of the season.
Travis Kelce has put back-to-back games together for the first time all season long, and he's the go-to.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire on Sports. Sam McQuillan joins us. Different time today here on the show all across the board. Normally we're at the 11 o'clock hour, a little bit earlier, moving things around today. But Sam is very versatile. He can appear at any time. He works for LegalSportsReport.com. You can read him and also follow him on social media at Sam McQuillan. Sam, great to have you on here, Super Bowl week. And what would it be without controversy coming from Las Vegas? We'll get to that, as well as, hey, so a little back and forth arguing, fighting with Fanatics and DraftKings. Love these sort of drama stories. Maybe they'll be on Bravo next week. Who knows?
Yeah, Craig, great to be with you, whether it's 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. And yeah, always fun to talk about some drama going on in the sports betting industry, especially ahead of the Super Bowl.
Yeah. All right. So let's start here. Fanatics and DraftKings in a war of words right now. Accusations flying back and forth. Catch us up on the story and what the latest is, or I would just ruin it by telling the whole story. That's why we have you, Sam.
Yeah, thank you for not spoiling it. It's basically, if you haven't heard by now, DraftKings is suing its former head of VIP operations, Michael Hermelin, for an alleged year-long plot to steal confidential secrets, business plans, and coercing employees to join Fanatics Sportsbook, where he works now, and basically taking all the VIP customers over with him. Now, if you know anything about VIP customers in the gambling industry, whether it's sports betting, casino, that's a huge part of the business for the operator. You always talk about sort of 90% of the money they make comes from about 10% of the people that bet with them. And this is like the highest of high net worth individuals, the folks that have a ton of money you want to entertain and, know who they are. You have all these files on them. So they're basically saying this guy took all that information with him to Fanatics and resigned last year right before the Super Bowl, which DraftKings said was deliberately timed to kind of hurt them right before their biggest event, obviously. We have the Super Bowl this year. We've talked about how much betting is going to be going on. It's huge for companies like this. So losing him right before then, they said, was part of that plot to take those high net worth clients with him. It's really a wild story when you get into the nitty gritty of it. Hermelin came out yesterday and basically says, there was nothing going on here except I left one job for a once in a lifetime opportunity, which obviously helping Fanatics build out their sports betting business. They're obviously a newcomer, but the lawsuit accuses him of making up that he had a close friend die pretty much right before he left the company, and him saying that, hey, I have to go to California to attend services for this guy. But DraftKings says that he actually didn't go to any services. What he did when he was in California was meet with Fanatics, go to their offices, and then try to establish California residency, which is very important because in California, they don't recognize non-competes, thanks to a law that was signed pretty recently. So that's part of the lawsuit as well, him violating that non-compete. They said he hastily, right before the Super Bowl, tried to get a license in California, signed a lease there, registered to vote so he could establish that residency, and in fact, had that non-compete not enforced. So Fanatics came out and said that, the same thing as Hermelin said, that, this is kind of bullshit. We just had it. It's just a guy leaving one company for another company. But DraftKings alleges also, that one of the reasons he left was because he was under investigation for workplace misconduct for, I believe, some sort of sexual allegations, something of that nature. So they said that's another reason he left so hastily. So now you had this process where it's going to be a lawsuit back and forth for the next couple of months. Every day we're getting more information. Matt Waters, my colleague, has been great following the news on this. So definitely go to LegalSportsReport.com for all the updates here. But yeah, the latest being him kind of denying everything. And we'll have to see, what happens, what court it ends up in, and where it all shakes down from here. But certainly a lot of drama ahead of one of the biggest events of the year.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And these two sports books, again, fighting for position too. So any kind of edge they can get is going to happen. All right. So I think, Sam, most people, they go to Las Vegas now that legalized sports betting is around the United States. And for those people who have never been to Vegas, let's be honest, some people never have. They may think, I'll just bet on my mobile app. I'll go to one of the hotels and do it. But it is completely different the way that Las Vegas operates the sports books in person. Really easy. You go down, you place a bet. If you want to do it outside of the window, as we would say, a little bit more complicated. Tell us more.
Yeah, you know what? We're in this scenario now where you have like 38 states with legal sports betting, 20-something with online sports betting. You would think if it's going to be easy to bet anywhere, it would be Las Vegas, Sin City, basically where it all started. But for those that are traveling to the big game or already in Las Vegas for the Super Bowl, coming from out of town, when you land in Harry Reid Airport and try to look at the odds on BetMGM or Caesars or another app, you might be kind of surprised to find out that it's going to say, hey, you're not signed up. You need to create an account. And you're like, wait, I thought I was already signed up in another state. What's all this? So there's actually an arcane rule in Las Vegas that before you try to bet at the Super Bowl or anything, you have to go to a casino and register in person with one of the affiliated casinos. So if it's, and if you're trying to use BetMGM, you go to the MGM Grand or the Cosmopolitan, one of the casinos that's affiliated with it. It's basically this old law that was designed to kind of increase foot traffic. A lot of older casinos, smaller casinos have lobbied to keep it. The larger operators obviously want to do away with it, but it also means that apps like DraftKings and FanDuel won't be accessible either. So you kind of have to have a game plan. If you have a lot of money in either of those accounts, take those out, maybe move that over to one of the, I believe it's about 13 apps that are okay in Nevada. So look those up. We have an article on Legal Sports Report talking about that as well. And I'm also told that, they're expecting a lot of foot traffic in Vegas, obviously. So there should be a ton of people at the casinos, at the, the sign-up windows, trying to fill out paperwork. MGM and Caesars both say that they have extra staff on hand to kind of deal with the influx of new people. But it is just pretty interesting, having the Super Bowl in Vegas, and it's not really being talked about that much. You're seeing all these advertisements and everything. There is this kind of weird rule that you still have that could prevent some people. I bet at the stadium, they'll be opening up their apps and trying to live bet next touchdown or next play or something like that. Like, wait, I can't do that? That's so weird. So, something to look out for if you're in Vegas for the big game. But despite that, we still expect Nevada to smash their handle record for the Super Bowl. They've led every state in Super Bowl betting for pretty much every year. And this year, already reports are that they're about 40% ahead of schedule. So even with this weird sign-up rule, still expecting a lot of betting on the big game in the place that's hosting the big game.
Yeah, without a doubt. There's going to be a lot of betting going on at the Super Bowl in Vegas. People just go to Vegas every year to bet on the Super Bowl, let alone the game being there. Okay, so bad news here. Roger Goodell, in his press conference earlier in the week, said 25 NFL employees have been terminated for violating the betting policy. Were there any more specifics with that, or that was just part of the press conference?
Yeah, he didn't get into specifics. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell held this press conference earlier this week with sort of a select number of different press people from different outlets. Some people have been kind of vocal about who was left out, or maybe he was trying to handpick questions. But it was pretty interesting that even with all that kind of oversight or the kid gloves on the press conference, he did get into 4 gambling specific questions. One of them, like you mentioned, that there have been 25 employees now fired for gambling related charges. Obviously, the biggest one is the Jaguars daily fantasy sports case, where you have the guy working for the team who took millions away from the team to use on fantasy sports. But we didn't really know about all these other ones. They've gone unreported. It means, one, that the NFL has been relatively buttoned up with whatever these charges were, and 2, probably that they weren't super significant. But again, we don't know. The NFL has rules whether for employees that go a little farther than the players. Obviously, if you're a player, you can't bet on the games. You can bet on other sports. But if you're an employee, you can't use a betting app at a facility. You can't really bet in general while you're working for the team. So it's interesting that he actually came out and revealed this information. I don't know that we'll get more, but it is kind of a sign that the NFL is trying to be forward-facing on this gambling stuff, especially with it in Las Vegas. And it's important to remember that these rules have also always been in place. It's not something new we're talking about where, the NFL is getting all this money from the betting apps. Now they're, being hypocrites and preventing their people from gambling. These rules have always been in place. Andy Reid came out during his press conference this week and said, as soon as we got off the plane, we were kind of bombarded with an NFL exec explaining to us all the rules about gambling, what you can and can't do in Vegas. The players aren't allowed to go to casinos or anything like that and spend money at the sports books. And now that it's legal, the NFL, with their partnerships, getting out in front of it. So, this is also the first Super Bowl in Las Vegas, which previously, was taboo. You can even mention Las Vegas when you're talking about the Super Bowl, like you alluded to before, all the people coming in to bet, whether you're going to the game or not. And it's just a stark change from the NFL's stance. And they've been, credit to them, they've been one of the better leagues coming out, talking about, how to deal with, these investigations or problems occurring like that. But it also makes sense when you consider how much money they make off sports betting compared to the other leagues, and how much people bet on the NFL compared to other leagues as well.
Yeah, no, it does make a lot of sense. What kind of coverage you guys have, specifically on the game, Sam, over at Legal Sports Report? I know leading up, I saw Mike posting a lot about different articles. Is there anything specific we should know about in terms of coverage?
Yeah, one thing to look out for, story I'm working on is talking about the live betting during the game. How important that's going to be for sports books this year. It's something that's really helped them increase their hold over the past year. And now you have a huge event like the Super Bowl where people are on their couch, going to want to put more action down. And then talking about sort of the latency between what's going on the field and then what you're actually watching on the screen and how that really helps sports books pad their pockets more than just pregame bets.
Got it. All right, Sam. Well, have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the big game on Sunday, and you and I will talk next week and move on into some college basketball and some baseball. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yep. Can't wait. Have a good one, Craig.
All right, Sam McQuillan with us from Legal Sports Report. All right, coming up next, more Radio Row interviews. We got a really good one coming up for you next. Mark Ingram, what a standout he was at the University of Alabama and, of course, in the NFL for a long period of time with the Ravens and Saints. Our guys Ben Stevens and Kevin Walsh had a chance to go sort of one-on-one, I guess 2-on-1, with Mark Ingram. He gives out his Super Bowl pick, talks about the running back position, how important it is for the big game.
Think about last year's game, it ends on a failed Hail Mary, and both teams run out onto the field. That's what you're looking for, is a game.
A chaotic end of the game.
You can't get the game.
Oh, great point. Yeah.
2-point spread in the game. Think it could come down to the wire. Everyone says script, Taylor Swift, all this stuff. So I like 1600, no Gatorade point.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
They have played terrible football, and yet they always win. Have you noticed? Everyone keeps talking about how bad the Niners suck as they win every week. They win every game, even games they should have. They're down 24-7, and they still won.
Now we have the first excuse when the Niners lose on Sunday night. They practiced on a bad field at UNLV. They didn't get the proper conditions.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
I'm digging deep, fellas. I'm digging deep. Christian McCaffrey minus 220. Donnie, how could you do that? The price point is way out of control in this. Keep it simple. The goal is to win money, not to outsmart everybody. Mahomes is minus 140 to throw 2 touchdown passes. And if he's going to, every single thing suggests a wide receiver will haul in at least one, if not both.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
I saw a study that said 24% of Taylor Swift fans actually do follow the Chiefs now.
Sure.
And when you consider how many fans she has, it's quite a lot, 24%.
Oh, yeah. You seen Travis Kelce's Instagram, his social media?
Yeah.
Everything. Right. It's huge.
Oh, no, listen. He's, like his agent said, he's going to be the next Rock. They're setting him up to be, the next superstar.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Once upon a time, Mark Ingram won a Heisman Trophy at the University of Alabama, then played at a very high level in the National Football League, Baltimore Ravens, New Orleans Saints, part of a lot of winning teams. Ingram doing a great job right now on television as an analyst and broadcaster as well. When you're on Radio Row, and in this case in Las Vegas, you never know who you're going to run into. And as it turns out, good luck for Ben Stevens and Kevin Walsh. They spoke with former running back Mark Ingram about the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes, and how the running back position could impact the big game.
So let's dive in to Super Bowl 58. You've been around the league for a very long time, 12 years in the National Football League. You have seen the Kansas City Chiefs. You have seen the San Francisco 49ers reach this place in Las Vegas. What do you expect to see on Super Bowl Sunday?
It's going to be a heavyweight title bout. Rocky versus Apollo. Rest in peace. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's going to be a heavyweight title bout, man. And you talk about the Chiefs being able to play their best football at the most important time. Like, everyone was questioning them throughout the season.
Yeah.
But they went into Buffalo, dub. Went into Baltimore, dub. Like, they are just balling on a different level right now. The receivers and Mahomes, they're all on the same page. Pacheco, what he's able to do in the run game, their defense is probably the best defense that they've had in this Mahomes era.
Yeah.
So then you talk about the Chiefs, right? Like McCaffrey, what he's able to do affecting the game. If he gets going, that opens up everything else for Ayuk, for Debo, for Kittle. You talk about Trent Williams, you talk about Brock Purdy, what he's able to do. Their defense, Fred Warner. Like, that D-line they got, nasty.
Yeah.
Bro, this is going to be a heavyweight title bout. As a fan, I want the Niners to win.
Okay.
If I'm putting money on the game.
Oh.
I'm going Chiefs.
Plus 2.5 for money line
I'm
outright.
going Chiefs.
Okay, that's a
I'll
plus
take the
110
point.
ticket.
I'll double bet it. I'll do
that.
money line and I'll take the points too. Two separate bets.
I'll see you at the window.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm taking it. You giving me points with Patty Mahomey over there?
Here's the deal, though. They got more points from Baltimore.
Ooh.
I'm not going to get over that game for a while.
I'm hurt by that game, man.
But, okay, so you are the perfect person to ask. Lamar is excellent, spent the whole offseason defending him, and then he proved it right. I don't mind him throwing the ball 35 times. But that team's ability to run the football is so incredible, and I felt they left Kansas City off the hook in that game. For you, knowing so many of the guys involved, how did you feel watching that AFC title game play out?
I felt like I wasn't watching the team I had watched all season long.
Exactly.
I don't know what the game plan was. I heard that it was some run, pass checks.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. But in my eyes, your DNA is physicality, running the football, and then using the play action, and then using the drop back pass to complement the run game. You know what I mean? Because that's when it opens up things downfield for Lamar to be able to use his arm talent. But besides for the game plan and the lack of running the ball, they also had some inopportune turnovers, some personal foul penalties that adds 15 yards on a 30-yard play, takes 15 yards away from a 50-yard play.
Mm-hmm.
They had like 5 or 6 personal foul penalties. They beat themselves in a lot of ways. And when you have a Kansas City team with Andy Reid that's playing at a level like they were, they did nothing to beat themselves in that game.
It's true.
They didn't turn the ball over. They didn't have penalties that set them back behind the chains. You're 1st and 20. It's harder. You don't have a playbook. You don't have a play in the playbook for that. You know what I mean? You got to get back on schedule. So I just felt like it was a team that I didn't recognize.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They beat themselves. The game plan wasn't to what it was the entire season, and that proved costly for them.
All right, thanks very much, guys, and great interview, no doubt. Let's do another one with Matt Lutovsky. We go from the NFL to the NBA. Matt, before we get to what's going on in the NBA as far as some of the games tonight and some of the look at the odds, has there been a trade, you think, that has moved the needle at all in the NBA thus far? I saw Buddy Hield started off the little flurry here, and it feels like a lot of minor trades. Do you think any ended up being a major trade?
I don't think so yet. I think we're all still waiting. And, it's funny. Sometimes you look back and you go, wow, this guy was such a key role player. And it, at the end of it, it seems a lot more major than it did at the time. So perhaps we've had one of those and we're not even realizing it. But I think people are still waiting right now for a bigger trade to come with a bigger name involved and a bigger salary involved. And then we'll start feeling like the trade deadline has really hit.
All right. Well, we'll get into it. If something happens during the show, we, of course, will break it down. Let's start off with the Milwaukee Bucks. Doc Rivers, boy, this has been a little bit of a rough start here as he's gotten off to a 1-2 start as the head coach there. I guess this will normalize, right? Like, this will work out in the end. The Bucks clearly saw that it wasn't going to work out, and they had to make this move. Do you think it was a little premature, or do you think that this is just the remnants of what was going on there?
Yeah, I think it was a little of that. I think it was also he joined the team right during a sort of West Coast road trip that is tough for any team, even if you're playing teams that you think, oh, we should win. Obviously, the loss in Portland looks like a bad loss, but there was some added fuel to that fire for the Trailblazers with Dame coming back. So overall, it's not ideal, obviously, but it's also one of those things that you just kind of look at and you say, all right, they went through a transition. And I think maybe some of the players had their eyes on the All-Star. There's just a lot of things at once you can look at and say, yeah, they started slow. The good news for Doc is he's still the coach of the East in the All-Star game, which is hilarious and amazing. And even Doc himself said it was ridiculous. But all he needed to do was win that one game, and he got it. But overall, yeah, I think this will normalize. I think the Embiid injury in Philadelphia really knocks them down a peg. He'll probably be back, but even if he is, that could – that's another thing that can move the Bucks up in the Eastern pecking order. And I think a lot of people have questions about Boston, deservedly so. And then you got the Knicks, who are sort of this sort of plucky, scrappy underdog, so to speak. That's going to be a tough out for anyone. We know Miami's going to be a tough out for anyone, but I think when it's all said and done, Milwaukee, is going to be right there. They'll have righted this ship, and then we'll be talking about Doc's problems in the playoffs, and this will be long forgotten.
Yeah, no, I agree. Real quick, let's look at their odds one more time here to win the NBA championship. This is about as good as it's going to get if you're interested at 5-1, Eastern Conference plus 190, Central Division plus 105, win total 52.5. Are you a buy low on Milwaukee right now, Matt, or do you just sort of think like this is these are the accurate prices?
Yeah, I think it's a buy low, at least for the championship and maybe the Eastern Conference. Win totals are so tough because weird things happen at the end of the season with teams sitting guys. And the division is just sort of is what it is. But I think championship, this is a buy low opportunity. And like I said, they're coming out of the East, they're probably, if it's them and the Celtics, they're going to have the best player on the court. That's big in an NBA playoff series. And I mentioned some of the other issues that plague the other teams. So yeah, I like that. I like that price. I like that value. Winning the title is going to be very tough. Whoever comes out of the West is going to be very good. But at least winning the East, I think that's a pretty good price for them.
Gotcha. On one other trade in the NBA, by the way, this just broke. The Raptors are trading Dennis Schroeder to the Nets for Spencer Dinwiddie. So another trade that goes down there. You can comment on it, Matt, if you want, but more or less, I do want to review this game tonight between Minnesota and Milwaukee. If you want to do both, or just let's break down the game. Bucks are 1 point favorite. I understand. Not a big trade. Another small one. I get it. Okay, so the Bucks, hard to make the Bucks a favorite over a good team. That's what Minnesota is. And they're laying one tonight with a total of 223. Timberwolves, they're going to make the playoffs. They could be a tough out in the playoffs this year too. Do you lean any specific way here? It says coin toss to me on the board. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it is. I think the Timberwolves on paper should be better and should be favored by more in this game, but we've seen them over the last three or so weeks just get plagued by these problems that plagued them last year, that it looked like they were mostly over. But these fourth quarter sort of breakdowns against teams that they shouldn't have them against. It's one thing to have it against a good team like they did against Boston. And you go, well, you're playing in Boston. You were missing a couple guys. But when it's happening against Charlotte, when it's happening against the Spurs, when it's happening like it did in their last game against Chicago, it shouldn't be happening. You shouldn't be blowing double-digit second half and especially fourth quarter leads. So I think it's very tough to go all in on the Wolves, especially when you're playing a team that's very good and, again, has the best player on the court. So this is a tough game. The Wolves have responded in each time they've blown one of these leads and played well the next game. So I think they'll do that. I like the Wolves to take care of business tonight, but at the same time, I totally would get why people would be very leery of that. And again, I made the joke earlier about the Eastern Conference All-Star coach. We have the Western. This is a preview of the All-Star game coaches going head-to-head, and maybe the most unlikely All-Star game coaching scenario maybe ever. especially since one wasn't even coaching a team at the beginning of the year. So I think this will be a really good game. It's going to come down to whether or not Anthony Edwards wants to play hero ball or whether he trusts his teammates. And we'll have to see which Karl Anthony Towns shows up to, because he can sort of go in and out for this Wolves team.
All right, fair enough. One time, let's go to Cleveland here. We got about a minute to go, Matt. Cleveland has been the hottest team in the NBA, not named the Knicks, I guess. They're 6-point favorites tonight against the Nets. They beat the Wizards 114-106. Spider Mitchell had a big game. Cleveland is legit, Matt. Like, they're for real. I mean, this may be the first real run that they're going to have in the playoffs since LeBron was there. But their regular season has been fantastic thus far.
Yeah, but I feel like we thought that last year too. And then they just, the playoffs did not go well at all. And maybe it was a bad matchup, or maybe it was just trying to figure out, Garland was younger. Some of these other guys were younger, and it was Mitchell's first year. I like them for sure, but you just look where are they going to fall, what that first round matchup's going to be. So when you put up the odds there for their futures, I'm not too excited about them, honestly. And you remember a lot of these wins, a lot of this run has come with Garland out, and obviously he's a great player. You think, well, they're going to add him back and just be all the better, but then you break up chemistry, then you break up some other elements of what's made them so good. So I'm not a huge Cleveland guy, even though I recognize how good they are.
Yeah, and I understand, hard to buy back in after last year, but I would say this before we go. I think the key, Matt, for a lot of this stuff in the NBA right now is just seeing who makes that run in February and March. If it's not Cleveland, do you think it is the Knicks? Do you think it is maybe the Clippers, some team in the West? Who do you expect to take that next big leap like Cleveland and New York has?
Yeah, I really like the Clippers. Like you said, they seem to be built for it. And I think the Knicks are going to be there in the end, too. I don't know if there's too many other teams that are going to make a big run that haven't already or aren't on the radar, I should say. So it's going to be real interesting to see these teams come together. You always got to be leery of the teams that peak too soon, like it looks like Minnesota might have when they were so impressive earlier in the year, and maybe some of these other teams. But there's again, maybe something will happen here later today that will change things a little bit. But Cleveland is just one of those teams that it's tough to get behind. It's tough to believe in them until they do it. You could probably say that about Minnesota. And I think looking at the game tonight, I do like them in the game tonight, just because Brooklyn's going to be down a key player. They won't have Schroeder yet, and Cleveland's so hot. So I think, they'll cover that. I think they'll win outright. But, as far as the long-term prognostication, it's going to take a little more before I'm fully on board. But, there's some good teams out there. The NBA, it's coming together. This is the time. As soon as the Super Bowl is over, now people will really pay attention, and it's going to start getting really fun.
Yeah, All-Star break coming too. All right. Thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate it, Matt. Enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll talk next week.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, Matt Lutovsky from Sporting News. All right, coming up next, an extension for a player in Major League Baseball just announced, and for coaches and executives as well.
Think about last year's game, it ends on a failed Hail Mary, and both teams run out onto the field. That's what you're looking for, is a game.
A chaotic end of the game.
You can't get the
game. Oh, great point. Yeah.
2-point spread in the game. Think it could come down to the wire. Everyone says script, Taylor Swift, all this stuff. So I like 1600, no Gatorade play.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
They have played terrible football, and yet they always win. Have you noticed? Everyone keeps talking about how bad the Niners suck as they win every week. They win every game, even games they should have. They're down 24-7, and they still won.
Now we have the first excuse when the Niners lose on Sunday night, they practiced on a bad field at UNLV. They didn't get the proper conditions.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
I'm digging deep, fellas. I'm digging deep. Christian McCaffrey minus 220. Donnie, how could you do that? The price point is way out of control in this. Keep it simple. The goal is to win money, not to outsmart everybody. Mahomes is minus 140 to throw 2 touchdown passes. And if he's going to, every single thing suggests a wide receiver will haul in at least one, if not both.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
I saw a study that said 24% of Taylor Swift fans actually do follow the Chiefs now.
Sure.
And when you consider how many fans she has, it's quite a lot, 24%.
Oh, yeah. You seen Travis Kelce's Instagram, his social media?
Yeah.
Everything. Right. It's huge.
Oh, no, listen. He's, like his agent said, he's going to be the next Rock. Like, they're setting him up to be, the next superstar.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire on SportsGrid. We do not have a ton of Major League Baseball signings to talk about, and that's been the way that the winter has gone. But there is a contract extension, as it looks like Adolis Garcia has signed a 2-year extension with the Texas Rangers, coming off his great run, of course, in the postseason and World Series. And also, we found out yesterday that the Rays just want to keep running it back as they always have. They've extended their president of baseball operations, Eric Neander, and their manager, Kevin Cash, to contract extensions. If you wonder why this keeps happening in Tampa Bay, it is because essentially they keep winning, they keep losing executives, and the ones that stay end up staying as long as they possibly can in the roles because they do a great job. They just keep promoting from within. Lower level employees become higher level employees. It's known as one of the best places to work in Major League Baseball as well. And so naturally, knowing that right now the new president of baseball operations in Miami came from Tampa Bay, I have a little bit more of an understanding as to what's going on in Tampa over the last couple of decades. And well-deserved for Kevin Cash, who, by the way, doesn't just become instantly a great manager. He's learned to become a great manager and has won manager the year before. And Eric Neander, phenomenal job running the show there, previous Chaim Bloom, and Andrew Silverman, and many, many others as well. All right, that will do it for our show today. I want to thank Danan Hughes for coming on the program, as well as Sam McQuillan and Matt Lutovsky. And thanks to the folks out in Las Vegas for giving us some great interviews. I know we're going to have some great ones tomorrow for sure, because today is like mega day at Radio Row. The big names are all there. Also, thanks to Frank and Matt for their help on the show, and our producer, Michael Cohen. I'm Craig Mish. So here's the deal. Coming up 3 o'clock Eastern, Scott Farrell live from Las Vegas. So make sure you check out that show. I will see you back here as we wrap up the week of programming tomorrow, noon Eastern, for our Friday edition of NewsWire. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Keep it locked right here. Great programming is ahead from the Super Bowl. See you tomorrow.